We watched the first episode of Southern Hospitality.
And I gotta tell you, it made us understand why everyone's calling it the Wish version of VPR.
Burn, shots fired.
I'm Carrie.
And I'm Iris.
And we're the real Couchwives.
So you watched it last night, right? What are your impressions?
So first, right off the bat, the cast is so young that I was like taken aback by it. Like they look like babies.
That's interesting. I don't know if I necessarily felt that way, but I definitely agree with you. It does feel like they're just a little bit unexperienced. Maybe they're not ready for this. They're not ready for what they're about to embark upon, I think, is my first impression of this.
Yeah, no, there was definitely something different to me. It actually made me wonder, like, how old was the cast in Vanderpump Rules when they started? Because I was like, they did not look as young to me. Maybe they acted as young, probably, arguably. But it actually made me go up and look it up. So do you have any guesses as to how old they were?
Well, I definitely think Jax and Sandoval, I feel like have to be the two oldest, right? Like Jax, I feel like is already in his 30s. Oh, maybe Kristen's older. I think Stassi was the youngest. I just think Stassi was like 23 or 24 or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think Stassi was 24. I think it was her 25th birthday. It's my birthday.
Nice.
In like episode 3 or 4, like pretty early on. And then the rest of them were pretty much in their late 20s, and most of the boys were like in their 30s.
Oh wow.
Compared to this cast, which I think is mainly, I can't really tell. One of them said they were 24, that I remember, and the rest of them look like they're early 20s.
Yeah. No, I do think I think that's right. I think you definitely get more of like a college town vibe from like this group of people, and definitely don't seem like I never would guess that any of these people are in their late 20s, like almost 30s.
No. And then the other thing too that is just so hard to get past is like it just seems like such an influencer age. Like that's the other thing, right? Like you look back at VPR and you're like, okay, they were a little bit older, yes, but it is, I guess, also a different time, and I guess that's what they're trying to capitalize on right now. But I'm just not into it. Like,
no, I think you're right. I think it definitely felt like this is, and I think this is kind of the way that reality TV is going. You know that by joining one of these shows, you're going to be able to become an influencer. I do think one thing that Vanderpump Rules had going for it, and what was interesting to kind of see, like revisiting that episode this week, was like almost the naivete of the Vanderpump Rules kids. Like they're all still very hopeful. They're all still very much like, wanting to pursue like their acting, their musical careers, like all of that stuff. And so even though they are older, and I think across the board like they are older than all of these cast members, they still feel a lot younger, especially they're all like living with roommates, living with boyfriends, like having like that kind of experience too. And I guess LA is also just such a different city from Charleston. Like you have to automatically like move in with somebody to be able to afford rent. Well, maybe Charleston's expensive too, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean some of the cast in Charleston seem to still be living with their parents.
That is true,
which is no judgment, just kind of funny.
No, not at all.
With the way that they're positioning it, because they're all just like partying, talking about all the girls that they get in their parents' house. And that was another thing that I noticed as well, is that like Vanderpump Rules, like you said, it was fresh, right? It was such a different type of concept, and I feel like that's why we really wanted to get in it and look at it, because we wanted to see like Vanderpump Rules kind of did that for the first time, that type of model, and just going into a restaurant and really focusing on the cast who are already friends. Really from the beginning they set the expectation and the fact that they were all friends before, they had all roomed together, they had all dated, and like it did feel very genuine and authentic. I feel like they're trying to recreate a lot of those beats with this one. Like I think even in the intro they're like, we work together, we play together, like we date, we do all these things. It just feels kind of fake to me.
It feels so fake to me. It feels like every single plot point that we were encountering in that first episode was 100% fabricated. Like I don't actually know a lot about like the club promoter scene or how like this works, but like I did not feel like it was such a big issue that this person had gone and like gone to promote like another event or something, and that it was this huge like affront where he was like stealing money from the company and like stealing money from each of his colleagues because he was promoting another event somewhere else for like a different brand or whatever it was. Even the like conflicts between the girls, like it just didn't really feel the same. And I think I see the issue being that they felt like they had to like have really high stakes. And what was actually so great about Vanderpump Rules is the stakes were high to them, but they were relatively low stakes. Like in the first episode of Vanderpump Rules, they're fighting over like whether or not they should be pooling tips. That feels so relatable. Like that feels like a conversation like I could envision having. And I think that's so interesting because obviously it's high stakes to them. It's the difference between like them being able to pay their rent or not. And a lot of these people at the beginning were unable to pay their bills, or often talked about how they were struggling with money. And they brought that up in Southern Hospitality as well, but it's still like they didn't like hinge on that problem in kind of the same way. And so the dynamic is very different. Yeah, and I just think that like Vanderpump Rules was just able to tap into real life circumstances and issues and like make that kind of like the drama, and they didn't have to kind of like fabricate anything.
And the drama was just all there already in their very messy friend group. Honestly, they struck gold. Like it was lightning in a bottle. And I think that's what this show is kind of putting to light, the Southern Hospitality, is that was just such a perfect storm of kind of circumstances. I think Stassi even went on, I think it was the Not Skinny Not Fat podcast, and she said like seasons 1, 2, 3 were 1 to 3 were super unscripted. Like that was just their life, and they were all new at it, and you could tell. But even with that, their confessionals, especially Stassi's, are still so good. And actually, it's when you mentioned tips too, because I think that did come up, that they needed the money, but the way that it came up in Southern Hospitality was they needed the money because they were going to go on yachts or something.
And like
the two girls going to Tulum when the pandemic started.
That was weird. And like like I think the one character, and like this is the crazy thing too about this show, is like I watched that entire episode. I could maybe name 1 or 2 names, and that's it. Like I know Leva's name. That's the main name that I'm 100% certain I know.
I had to look it up. Grace Lilly, just because that is a name that sticks out.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. But I think I remember that one.
And it almost seems like they're trying to match the characters on some level, or maybe that's just what we're doing because it is such like a similar situation to VPR, like it's gonna happen naturally. I guess that I think her name was Maddie, and that girl Grace, like they don't like each other, so you're kind of like, is that the Stassi Sheena that they're trying to play? I don't know. Like another part of me too was just wondering, is this rewatch that I'm having of Vanderpump Rules, like I'm just looking at it with so much more knowledge of who they become and all of that, because I actually started it only 3 years ago, right before the pandemic. And I remember thinking that it was very off-putting because Stassi was so mean. But now I watch it and I'm like, this is amazing. This is gold.
It really is. No, and I do think that there was something to be said by like the way that the production company like introduced us to these characters in Vanderpump Rules. Instantly, like straight from the get-go, like the introductions happen, they're so brief, but they're like, this is Stassi, this is Sheena, this is Katie, this is Katie's boyfriend, this is Sandoval, this is Kristen, and this is Jax, and this is Peter. Like we knew them all, and then we have a great follow-up scene where like maybe you didn't catch all those names the first time, but now we have Peter literally explaining all of the dynamics of like who's dated who, how long they dated for, like
it's true.
We just got like such a good, and honestly to a certain extent too, it's a lot easier to keep track of the number of people that they have on Vanderpump Rules. Like they have 4 girls, 3 of them are friends, 1 of them is not. You have 3 boys, 1 of them's Peter, 1 of them's Jax, and 1 of them's Tom, and they each kind of like have their own like distinct personality. There's like, I don't know, there's like 2 blonde guys on this other show. There's like, or there's at least 2 blonde guys. There's like all these girls. There was literally a point when I was like watching the episode and I was like, have we met this person? I don't know.
No, same. It's so true. I think they did character building super well in Vanderpump Rules. And so much happened too. Like just in the first episode, you
Mhm.
have, like you said, like they very clearly put out all the dynamics. So you understand everyone roomed together, everyone dated, they're all friends. You also have like the beginnings of Stassi and Jax's relationship troubles. You have Sheena singing that I forgot
I
they put in the
know.
first episode.
I couldn't believe it was already there. I was like, no, there's no way. It's got to be like halfway through the season, but it's not. It's like right there, first episode. I was like, wow. I was excited though for a second because I thought it was going to be good as gold, and I was like, oh wow, oh we're ready.
No,
We're
it was worse.
it was something else.
Yeah, there was so much happening in that first episode. Not to skip too far along, but I did watch more because
Oh really?
it's so good. But even I think it's by episode 4 you're already at like the cheating's been revealed and they're in, where did they go? To Vegas. They went to Vegas. Yeah. I'm like, wow, that happened in the first 4 to 5 episodes. I thought
I
that would be
know.
like mid-season.
I know, it's incredible.
Even this season on Vanderpump Rules, so
Yes.
much stuff in the
Oh my
first
God.
season.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what happened in the Southern Hospitality one. I'm trying to
No.
remember.
There was some drama over somebody being walked to another club and not having the other person there to like receive them. That was some drama. Somebody went to go buy $400 pairs of shoes at one point. You know, like even the hangouts that they were like staging, and like the thing is, you know, to a certain extent with a reality show, you know that it's going to be staged, you know that they're like have to set up times and like, you know, have a filming schedule and all that stuff. But like having the girls all meet at like a pool, like a pool bar or whatever it was, and then all the boys like work out together and then like hang out on a porch or whatever.
Oh my God, that workout scene was so forced. Everyone take your shirts off and go work out in the yard.
Exactly. And then them like saying like, oh, we always, whenever we hang out, we always just take our shirts off. I was like, okay, like if you guys actually were like leaning into this a little bit and like being like, look at how ridiculous this is, or making it kind of camp or like whatever, like I could kind of appreciate that. But like I don't think that that's what they were doing. I just think that they were, I don't know, they were trying to do something. It wasn't hugely achieved. But the hangouts just felt so like artificial, whereas like in the first episode of Vanderpump, like they're they're doing a lot of work actually at the restaurant, which makes sense, but then they're also hanging out at like Katie's like apartment or something, and that just felt like so natural and normal, and like actually showed that they were like friends, like hanging out. And that,
yeah,
I feel like that's what we needed, I don't know, in this to get that real.
Yeah, it's more like you're getting into a sneak peek. And that was what was funny too, is I thought that they would feature more of Charleston in it, but it didn't. Like you could have put that anywhere. Like
That's
at least this
exactly
first episode.
how I felt. Yeah, you're so right. Oh my God.
Because even Southern Charm, right? Like the first episode of Southern Charm, I feel like was very centered around Charleston, and this is why we're making this show, because it's so unique. I was actually super off-put by the cast just because they seem so different from who we see in Southern Charm. And the fact that they don't talk about Charleston at all, that you're just kind of like, what is the point then if you're not going to make it about the area that it's in? It doesn't have the VPR factor where it's like these people all want to be actresses and actors, and it's just like these people work at a club.
No, that's just it. It really did feel quite anonymous. You didn't get really any of the sense of like Charleston that they've established in Southern Charm, and I just don't like understand why they felt like this was kind of like the one that they needed to do. This is Republic. This is the place where, you know, like Catherine hooked up with at least Whitney, maybe Shep, definitely Thomas at one point or another. And like this has become like an iconic place in Southern Charm. I don't understand why you wouldn't build off of that. Like, right? Like if you're gonna have this be set in Charleston, you're gonna have it be set at Republic. Of all the other places it could have been set, like you should really capitalize on why you're here and like explain to us like the heritage, you know, the Bravo heritage that existed at this place. I just think that it's a bit of a lost opportunity to have like that connection with the audience, because obviously, you know, the average person isn't just going to come tune into Southern hospitality without the context of Southern charm.
No,
So
that's
give us that
exactly
link.
it. And they obviously tried to use that as well, because at the end, at the opening, like they did show some of the Southern Charm cast. Like I understand they don't want to lean too heavily into that because they want this to be their own thing. But I just don't think that Leva has enough of a name on her own to make us super excited about these people that we don't know. Like to your point, like they should be leading on to into this. Like they should have had a part at the beginning, which was like, here's all the crazy things that have happened in Republic, because it is mentioned all the time throughout the series, right? Like are they even product placement like doing that for her at this point? Because we've known about Republic for so long.
Yeah, it's such a good point.
So yeah, I feel maybe they'll explore it more, I don't want to judge too harshly off this first episode, but at the same time, I don't want to watch more.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't want to watch more. I'll probably give it a couple more chances, as you do. But no, you're 100% right. I just really wish that I'd gotten something more out of this. And if you're not going to capitalize on it being Republic, you should at least capitalize on it being in Charleston and like give us like a sense of that. Even the comment that Leva had at one point when she was talking to the staff at like the beginning of the thing, she's like, oh, this is the South, so like pull down your skirts a little bit or whatever to like make you feel like a little bit more covered up. But I'm like, okay, but like, is it the South? I don't know. Like,
pull down your skin tight neon dresses. Because we are classy.
Yeah. Pulling it down will definitely also make it better. It'll make it seem like there's more fabric here.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of the outfits. Just not my vibe. But I don't what I started thinking, like maybe we're not like, is this not even for us?
Like I guess that's entirely possible. Maybe this is not for us.
But then I don't understand who it's for.
Yeah, I don't know who it's for, and like I just don't know, like, does Bravo really have the younger demographic? Like
maybe that's what they're trying to do. Like maybe this is their secret pull to try to get like a newer, younger type of audience. Because I was looking at Reddit too, and they totally agree. That's where I found the Wish version of Vanderpump Rules. People feel very strongly about this, which how can you not? But a lot of people were like, I feel super old, like like what, I'm in bed and like what is happening, like what am I watching? And a lot of people also mentioned that they thought that the cast looks super young, so we're not alone in our feelings.
But at the same time, like I feel like I've never had an issue like watching like an older or younger like generation on TV. I guess I did make the comment last week about Real Girlfriends in Paris, so I guess for that I should apologize because now I'm going to contradict myself completely. But like for the Housewives, like I have no problem with the fact that they're like 50, 60, 70, 40, like whatever age that they might be. I don't think anybody actually is in their 70s yet for the Housewives.
Is Ramona not?
I don't think
she's
so.
Definitely
she's
close.
She's getting close, and probably Vicky's like getting up there as well. But for the most part, like I have no problem watching like these people with like a completely different generation, like hang out, party, do all this stuff. But like it's just, I don't know, it missed the mark for me on this one.
No, and that's it too, because I was thinking about it. Like it's not that we don't like watching people party, because we obviously do. We watch we watch Summer House, we watch Winter House. And then in Southern Charm, Catherine was super young at the beginning. That one was weird for different reasons, because you had like this 21-year-old with like these 50-year-olds and then like sprinkling of 20-somethings. But yeah, it's never been, you're right. I don't know if it's so much of the age, is more of just like the vibe and the scene that we're just like not connecting with. So yeah.
And I wonder what the decision was behind having it be set at a club as opposed to a restaurant. Just to go back to like Vanderpump Rules, like, I think a lot of people can relate to being servers, waiters, waitresses, bartenders. And I guess that there are like bartenders here and stuff as well. And I guess they're doing serving in their own way too. But like, what is a VIP concierge? Like, what is a VIP manager? Like, okay, I guess in theory, if I think about it, I can kind of like figure out what they might be doing. But at the same time, like, I don't know what these people do. Like, I don't connect to this at all. Like, not only do I not connect it to like, their ages, their location. I also just have no idea what they're talking about or what they're doing. Like, you gotta give us something. You gotta give us something that's like gonna make us like invested in these people. And like, yeah, I guess that's just where like I feel like it also kind of, you know, counted against itself. Maybe if they had done like, if I don't know if Bourbon and Bubbles is more of like a restaurant, but maybe that might have been more of the one to like go with out of the two if you were gonna have to choose where you were gonna host this.
Yeah. I don't know much about any of her restaurants. I actually didn't know that she owned many until they told us. It is something that Lisa did in hers too, though. Like, to go back to some of the comparing, contrasting, we could go off in different tangents here.
Constantly, yeah.
Like, there were some similarities, you know, because I remember I was watching Southern Hospitality and I was thinking that everyone was like very boasty, like even Leva, which, you know, to her point, like she's accomplished and she does a lot of things and she should make that known. And that's also kind of the credibility they're trying to build off of this show and why they're following her. Lisa does do the same thing. I think we just probably take it differently because we love Lisa. And she's so cheeky and funny about it. But even the rest of the cast, the first scene, Stassi, I think, has said something along the lines of like, you know, all of us want to be actors or musicians, and then other servers just want to work at SUR. Like, they're saying that you have to be good looking. Like, they are definitely boasting.
Yeah.
I just still look back at it being just like, this is gold. And this one I look at being like, yeah, I don't know about that. You should tamper it down.
Okay, well, so this is perfect because I think, okay, one thing that I noticed watching Vanderpump Rules is that there were like 3 iconic lines that I always think about in Vanderpump Rules, and I cannot believe that they all happened in the first episode. So I wanted to do a little
There were
game.
a lot of really good lines.
There were a lot of really good lines, and I wanted to do a little game to see if you could think of what my other. So you've just said the first one. So the servers all want to be models, actors, writers, singers, and waiters in the rest of another restaurants in Hollywood just want to be waiters at SUR. What do you think the other 2 iconic lines that I just like pulled out immediately from this episode are?
Okay, so I absolutely know one has to be, I am the devil, don't you forget it.
I'm so impressed.
Said by Stassi with the straightest face. What's the other one? There's honestly so many.
So this one's said by Lisa, if that helps.
Oh, is it something about telling the girls to wear big knickers? Because their outfits are so small.
That is also a very good line. I definitely agree with that. But I pulled out, Villa Blanca is where you take your wife and SUR is where you take your mistress.
Oh my gosh, how did I not know that one? That one is so good.
That's totally fair.
That's such a perfect example. She just comes out swinging and just
literally,
love her.
Literally, she sets it up so perfectly. Like, that happens in the first 30 seconds. And that's both a tribute to how good Lisa Vanderpump was at like knowing what the audience would want and how to like, you know, succinctly say what she was doing, what she was trying to accomplish. And then also the editors just being genius and knowing how to like put this whole story together and be like, okay, that's it. That is the selling point of this entire restaurant. That's the selling point of this entire TV show. Let's go from there. And
it's so true. And then she only built more. I want her to, I think she does eventually elaborate on it too and tell them what Pump is and like all these other things.
Oh, that's cool. I
think Pump was where you bring your boyfriend.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, no, they were so good. It's also where we get Can You Freak, the horrible cringe-worthy music from Sheena, who thinks she's Britney Spears, apparently.
Yeah, totally.
You very quickly find out that Tom Sandoval has like a meticulous self-care routine and straightens his hair and shaves his forehead.
That's just it. Like, so many good people just came out of this show. Like,
it's so good. It's so good.
They literally struck gold. They like had no idea when they like found this group of people that this is what they were going to be able to achieve.
It really is. But honestly, I do remember like at first it was a little hard for me. I remember I watched the first episode and I was like, this is so mean. Like, I don't want to watch these mean girls. And you were like, no, you're gonna love her. No, and I was like, what do you mean? And now it's the season where Stassi wasn't there. It's not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not the same. It's really not. I do have hope. I know I've already said this, but like I do have hope for next season. You know, I'm holding out. I think it'll be good. But it's true. She set the pace, and like her being kind of like the counter of like Lisa Vanderpump, like the two of them kind of always playing off of each other. So good.
Well, that's the thing too. Lisa has such a different relationship, it
Mhm.
seems. I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess we'll get into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. At least now we can start rewatching VPR because it's just always gold. I try to aggressively push it onto everyone that I know.
Literally,
It's like
yeah.
the perfect starter. If you are new to Bravo, like that's what got me into the world of Bravo. So maybe that's why I have such a special place for it,
Yeah.
because that's what like opened up everything else. I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier to get into than, some of the housewives, especially when you have to go back to like the first seasons where
Yeah.
like they don't really know what they're
2000s.
doing. It's
Yeah.
super grainy, like
The
it's
like
hard to
decor
watch.
is like you're in like a Tuscan villa, or you're like where are we? What are we looking at right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for us to talk about how these two shows came to be. The women at the helm of Southern Hospitality and Vanderpump Rules. Of course, the infamous Lisa Vanderpump. And
Queen
yeah,
Lisa Vanderpump. You could kind of tell we might be a little bit biased
a
in this
little bit, a
section.
little bit. And Leva Bonaparte. So yeah, I guess, Carrie, what's your feelings been about Leva over like the last couple seasons with Southern Charm?
So I was actually wondering as I was watching Southern Hospitality of when they filmed it, because the last season specifically of Southern Charm, she was not very engaged or present at all, right? Like she didn't even go to a bunch of the events.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And I don't know, she's definitely not as memorable as a name of
Hmm.
as Lisa Vanderpump was, I think, when Vanderpump Rules started.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's super fair. I think like the way that they led in, this is such a good point, because the way that they led in from, you know, Southern Charm to Southern Hospitality, we have no sense of the timeline. We don't really know where we're like starting off, ending. It would have obviously been great to like see a little bit of this background like in the last season of Southern Charm, but I'm actually kind of pretty surprised that they didn't do what they did with Vanderpump Rules at the beginning, because that felt like such a seamless choice, right? To have like an episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I think they were actually combined when I watched them online. It was like a 2 hour long episode, and like you didn't even notice like the difference. Like they like literally just like switched from uh Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to Vanderpump Rules.
Oh,
And
was it really?
I think they aired back to back, and that
Oh,
was the
that's so
premiere.
smart.
Yeah,
That's super
it
smart.
was genius, because also I had been the person who was like, oh, I'm not going to watch Vanderpump Rules. I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested in that. And then I was just like watching it on my tablet, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I guess I'm watching Vanderpump Rules. And it just happened. It was like washed over me. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm in.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it. They had that tie-in, right? And I'm the
Mhm.
opposite, where I started with Vanderpump and then I
Yeah.
loved Lisa so much that I went back and watched Beverly Hills,
Mhm.
but I already knew that tie-in.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see it when I was watching both of them, but I love that they did that when it was actually airing.
Yeah.
That's a really important note too, that when they had a tie,
Mhm.
right? They had Sheena,
Yeah.
who kind of like had an affair with Brandy from Beverly Hills's husband, and like you saw that play out basically crossing over onto both of the shows. So
Mhm.
you feel like you're in the know and you understand why you're being shown these people.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, like we were saying before, it's just, what is it based on? Like
Mhm.
it seems to just be that Vanderpump Rules was really successful, and like,
Yeah.
can we just do this again but in Southern Charm, because Southern Charm is pretty successful.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that makes me wonder a little bit about how, and I think I've kind of like talked about this a couple times, and wonder about like the origin story of this like new series, because if you even think about like Atlanta, if you think about Candy and like the way that she's had multiple spin-offs from that show. She's done like family vacations from that show, but one of the more recent seasons that came out of Atlanta was Candy and the Gang, which is her restaurant and her restaurant workers. So it was like also like quite a natural like progression, but at the same time, like Candy and Lisa Vanderpump are like titans of the housewives world, and Leva doesn't really have that like cachet necessarily, not yet for sure. I know that she was a big she's a pretty big character. She really established herself well in her like first full season. We'd like seen her in previous years of Southern Charm, but we like didn't really get much of her personality. She was basically just Cam's friend.
Yeah, I almost like forgot that she was there from this season 1 because she did just kind of intermittently show up to come to a party with Cam. I liked her in those episodes when she was just talking to Cam. Her first full season was the COVID season, right? Like,
yes, it was. Yeah, I think season 7 or season 6.
Right. And she, she'll come in, she'll stir the pot, like she'll do what she needs to do. But I just feel like to base an entire show and try to make it the magnitude of VPR off of, like they're expecting a lot, I think, from the audience to just think that they'll just ride the wave. And, we probably still will. They'll give it a shot at least.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny to go between the two. One thing that definitely is missing is Lisa's cheeky humor.
Yes. And that's kind of it too. Like I think we haven't gotten a lot from Leva. Like we've kind of got what feels like quite like a sanitized version of her. Like she shows us as much as she's willing to show us. And to a certain extent, I think Lisa did that as well. She like held back and she like showed herself like her own version of her personality, right? Like she's a little bit provocative. She'll make some funny jokes, whatever, but she'll at least like still give us like a bit of a sense of that we're getting like a peek behind the curtain. Whereas I think Leva's coming off a lot more reserved. And I just think we're not like getting that like connection to her that we need for her to really like get us interested in this show and to like carry us forward. And one thing that I actually thought was kind of interesting in watching the two TV shows, because they both had kind of like sit downs with the staff when they were gonna go over like, whatever we're gonna talk about that day, like a little staff meeting. And in Leva's staff meeting, she's sitting or standing at the bar. She's like created this distance between her and her staff are all like sitting. It's a little bit more like classroom style where like you're the teacher, you're over here, you're standing up, and they're like the pupils are sitting below you. They're all kind of like in their line.
That's such a good point.
But then in Vanderpump Rules, like they're all, when they're having that discussion about splitting tips, they're all like sitting around a table and it like feels a lot more communal. And like, obviously, like, you have very strong personalities on Vanderpump Rules. So you have Stassi, who's not going to like, no matter what, she's not going to like hold back her opinion. But like that, the conversation that generates and the kind of like dynamic that you see at that table is very different from kind of the dynamic between Leva and Lisa. And I don't know, it's kind of just something that I noticed, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And you always felt that Lisa's relationship and care for, the main, like, I think probably the whole staff, but at least we could only speak to what we saw, which was her relationship with the main staff. Like it always felt very genuine and very real. And I think it's probably too soon to like, on the one hand, it's kind of too soon to say, but on another, like rewatching that first episode, you could see it from the beginning that Lisa really knows these people and she cares for them and she could speak about their character. And I don't know if I got, like, obviously I'm sure Leva cares about her staff. So I'm definitely not saying that. It just like, it doesn't feel like that as close of a relationship that we saw on Vanderpump.
Yeah.
But, it's still to see how that plays out.
Yeah. And as kind of like staged as maybe like some of Lisa's like going on at like the restaurants and stuff were, like, she's like there like rearranging the flowers. She's always like going into the kitchen and being like, oh, what are you cooking up over here? Like, oh, this definitely needs more salt. I don't know.
The goat cheese balls.
Yeah, exactly. Those infamous goat cheese balls. She's always kind of like giving us like some input, making us feel like she is integrated into like the staff and the overall atmosphere, and that she's kind of like still running the show a little bit, whereas I'm not really seeing that in the same way from Leva. So I guess it does kind of make me wonder like what her actual like history is, like if she has worked in kitchens or worked in restaurants her whole life, or kind of like how she kind of came about into this position, because she just doesn't feel like, in one of the scenes that we saw her, like she was just like taking a phone call and she was like doing like arts and crafts or something with like her child, and it's just like, okay, so I feel like you're setting up a different dynamic if those are the scenes that they're like calling back to. Not to say that she isn't hugely involved, because she probably is, but we're not seeing it in the same way. One other thing that I kind of thought was interesting, and you kind of touched upon this with Lisa being so, like loving with her staff and having kind of like that maternal sensibility. One thing that I actually really appreciated in my rewatch of Vanderpump was seeing how not only does Lisa like acknowledge, yeah, like my staff all like hook up with one another, they all get into like these antics, but she also like kind of relates to them. She's like, I was young once, like she does that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
Where she explains to us like why she's like puts up with it and why she's okay with it. So you just kind of get like a little bit more of like a maternal feeling from her, and you get that kind of like understanding from her that kind of is like, oh yeah, okay, so you can relate to them, we can relate to them, we're all kind of like relating to one another. It's really creating some of the secret sauce, I think, that goes into like making a TV show such a hit.
Yeah. No, definitely. I have such a soft spot for Lisa. Well, so much so that for one of my birthdays, my boyfriend got me a cameo from the Lisa Vanderpump.
Oh my god.
But it was so funny too, because at the time I didn't know what cameo was. So
Oh,
he
really?
just shows me this video of like Lisa Vanderpump like saying my name, and I was like, how is this happening? Like, did I win a contest?
Oh my god, that's amazing. What did she say?
Don't make me try to put on a British accent.
You gotta do it.
I wish you're just like, oh, like, carry on, I heard you like dogs.
Amazing.
But
That's
it was
so
really
cute.
funny. But yeah, it was so cool, and especially because I don't have a common name, it's like so surreal to see someone that you love and like watch on television for so long say your name. It's pretty crazy.
That is amazing. Yeah, I can relate to that. Oh geez. Okay, well that actually makes me wonder if we're ready to do a little game.
What's the game?
Right. So what I've done is I went on Google, plain old normal Google.
Just the Google.
Just the Google. I went on to Google and wanted to look up kind of just like different reviews and ratings across like the different like Sir, Lisa Vanderpump and Leva restaurants. I was actually kind of surprised. Leva's got like 2 other restaurants that I hadn't heard of. One's like a sports bar, and then one's like a fusion restaurant. I'm not really sure. I can't remember what it was.
I think they said that on the show, but I didn't know that either.
I knew about Bourbon and Bubbles, obviously, from like especially the last season of Southern Charm. That's also another thing. It's weird that we got the one like in Leva's restaurant experience that we got at Southern Charm last year was in Bourbon and Bubbles, not in Republic.
Oh, is that girls' night?
Yeah, that was the girls' night. What a missed opportunity. And like,
that's
I get
so
it,
true,
because you can't have if Republic is like a nightclub, you can't have a girls' night dinner filmed at a nightclub, because that's not what that is. But like, I'm just like, I don't understand why you went with this. Anyways, let's get on to the game.
Okay.
All right, so we are gonna put Sir against Republic to see if you can guess which one has a higher star rating on Google, just the Google reviews.
Okay, this is gonna be hard. I actually don't know any. So they're both iconic. I have heard that like I don't know how good the food at Sir actually is, or people just go there because of the name of it. Except for the goat cheese balls.
Yeah, goat cheese balls.
Stassi has really sold those.
With Peter. I think you get to take a photo with Peter if you go.
Yeah. And Republic seems to be a pretty big name.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go Sir.
Yeah, you're right. So they're pretty close. Republic, it has 4 stars. 4 stars. And Sir has 4.3 stars. Sir also has a lot more reviews, which I guess also helps, usually because like there's like 2,000 reviews, and you still have 4.3 stars, that's pretty good. I'd say that's a pretty good rating. All right,
Yeah.
so the other two I wanted to pit against were Bourbon and Bubbles, hard to say, and Vanderpump Cocktail Garden, just because I thought that was a fun one.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think they both have kind of some so closer levels of reviews, so they're going to be pretty similar.
Okay, but that's another one because like Vanderpump Cocktail Gardens in Vegas, right?
It is, yes.
So I
There's
feel
a
like
lot of competition in Vegas.
there is a lot of competition in Vegas, but I feel like it also might get more people. But I don't know if that really would come into play. I don't know anything about Bourbon and Bubbles, so it's really hard to tell.
Just wager a guess. Your best guess.
I'm again gonna go with Vanderpump on this one.
Oh, see, this one's a little tricky because actually it's Bourbon and Bubbles. Bourbon and
Oh,
Bubbles has a 4.5.
oh
I
wow,
think is really good. Yeah.
that's really good.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah, we gotta go.
We do actually have to go. I would love to go. Whereas Vanderpump Cocktail Garden has 4.2. So, still very respectable. You really can't go wrong. And I want to check them both out. So,
That's so
girls trip.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So one of the things we both want to do to our listeners is do like a Bravo world tour, and we just hit like all of the locations.
That's true. Oh my gosh, how many times have we planned like that, like Los Angeles trip or like a New York trip or something? Attempting to do this.
Yeah, Charleston's on the list, Salt Lake City.
Yeah,
so many places.
Miami.
Yeah, now there's Miami.
Oh yeah, big time.
I don't know where we'd go in Miami though. That would be like
I don't think we could go to afford it to any of the places that they go in Miami. The Versailles Mansion. No, it's not Versailles. It's oh my god,
no.
Versace.
Versace. I think it was
Mansion.
Versace.
Yeah, it was a Versace mansion.
Yeah, casual.
Anyway.